is like, how come that the black people can come in one room alone? Are you safe to see another black person next to you? That's what I want to know. Okay. Are you not scared that possibly you might lose something, your wallet or your cell phone? No, I have to, because at the end of the day, I'm the one who will get calls to say, I've lost something. Are you comfortable that you see another black man next to you and your property or whatever you have is safe? Okay, and so please, I won't expect any call to say, it seems as if I've lost something, and then after 2 hours you call back and say, hey, it was in my car, I'm sorry. And so I guess you are happy. Sorry? You are fine. Thanks. Okay. Look, let me officially, okay, before I say anything officially, are you comfortable? 100%. Okay, thanks. And you can put your mask, and then when you want to say something, obviously you know what you have to do. And what is very interesting about the politics of mask or the politics of COVID is that we as Africans, we don't know what is right and what is wrong. We just follow. But anyway, let's do it. That's how we've been doing things, since our rebirth by colonialism and apartheid in 1994, early transition, They always give us, revival of who we are. And then we say, yeah, we have energy. And so let me welcome all of you today. And let me really appreciate that you came and you honored this call. And to a number of people, this call is a necessary one. And just to digress, we were in Johannesburg last week, and as you know, that Xubera just organized intellectual engagement. We engage in intellectual gymnastics. That's why they say, speaking good English, drawing Frantz Fanon, Karl Marx, Ngungi. If you want to go deeper, you cite T.S. Eliot, you Trotsky and so forth. And so in that seminar in Johannesburg, one colleague of mine came to me and said, look, Xolanine, just do something totally different. And then I said, what? He said, look, there is an issue in our country, and you always articulate it. And then I said, what is that? He said, look, there is an endless war that is going on. And I was aware of what he was saying, but I didn't want to say it, because I was organizing the seminar. And then he said, look, we as natives, we are at the receiving end since colonialism. And our souls are captured. Our minds are captured. And anything that we do, we are just the replicate of those who have captured us. In a way, we are just sabotigolosh, the zombies, we think through them, we live through them, we even laugh in a way that they dictate to us. We even drink, eat, everything, And so in a way we are hollow. We are a defeated nation. And so don't waste your time and money and talk about intellectual things here. Let's talk about practical things on how to free ourselves, because you are not free. And then I said to him, you know me, I'm too radical. and my stand in life. I'm on the side of the natives. And then he said, what is the native? I said, look, what is very interesting, you can go to Germany and be born in Germany or in Europe. You'll never be the native there, regardless. It's an inborn thing. Forget about anthropology and sociology, the interpretation of identity, that it is about socialization and so forth. It's not about that. They always forget about the issue of power. That is also place you where you belong, And then I said, okay, and so what would you like me to do? He said, let's have a discussion on the natives, the native question. ANC and this liberation movement, they were discussing about the national question. And so national question in the South African context, if you know history and its sociology, it's just a fallacy because we are not a nation, We can't be a nation when the AfriForum can go and represent themselves in the United Nations without consulting you. And you ask yourself, who are these guys? And so they've made it clear that they are not part of South Africa, We just share space and the geographical allocation. But when it comes to the matters that really is about power, they don't think about you. They think about themselves, And so I said, okay, I'll have the seminar. Interestingly, in Johannesburg, I was not expecting the number of people. We were forced to ask other guys or other people not to be part of us because of the numbers. We are so many. And I guess that is what is going to happen even here. And we asked about 70 people not to be part of us because of the COVID reasons. The hotel was complaining. And then immediately when we started the conversation, and then the guys said, Xolani, just be creative, think what we can do today. And then I said, okay, I will. I gave them 5 minutes of solitude just to think about the native question and the answer to the native question. And I made it clear that we are not going to have the priest, this intellectual priest who come here in the front and preach about intellectualism, about how, they come with these buzzwords, high English, but it's empty because it's not practical. And I said, I'm not going to invite any guest. I'm not going to do that nonsense anymore. If you want to attend, you have to attend. You are not called by Bushiri, an academic Bushiri, to come and pontificate about a particular theory and so forth. All of us as we are here, we are equal. And all of us as we are here, we have brains. And all of us as we are here, organically, we have some solution in our country on the native question. And so we are not going to spend an hour on Professor Babu Mapalala standing here and telling us what is supposed to be our solution. They've told us. That's what I've told them even in Johannesburg. I said to Abu Chris, Babu Mweleti, they were there. I told them that, look, these guys have been telling us for so many years the solutions. But I know those are not solutions. It's the marketing gimmick of them, just to sit around the table of the selected intellectuals, of which we need to do away with that nonsense. Because those are the people who betray us at the end of the day. They were sitting like this in Cordesa, but they don't tell us what they agreed on our behalf. You see, that is very nonsensical. And so all of us who are here, we have brains. All of us who are here, we have ideas. And so I'll give you 3 minutes, not 5 minutes, just to give us solutions on the native question. I'll give you 3 minutes to think. Don't share that 3 minutes. It's for you alone. Because you are so many. Randomly, I'll select about 10 people. We have the mic. Randomly, I'll select about 10 people. In 2 minutes, to tell us what they think is the native solution to our problems. And so, as I've said, there is no one who is above the other intellectually, and there is no one who is not capable to think. And so I'll give you 3 minutes of solitude to think about the native solutions on the South African context. I won't prescribe what is up to you. And then I will simply identify 10 people. It's going to be a mix. It's going to be women, Bonkosi, your age, Babu Mapalala, your age, Babu Makwaza, your age. And so everyone is going to be accommodated. Can we start that 3 minutes? Thanks. We are starting, and I am the timekeeper. I was clear, ne? Thanks. Okay, thanks. Can we do this, ne? I know 3 minutes is very limited. No preamble, you just say your name, and then you just give us a solution, because you are recording everything. You just say your name, and then you give us the solution in less than 3 minutes. Because if you are not going to do that, I'm going to take the mic. We are against time. Okay, thanks. 2. You are going to say your name and then you proceed.
Good evening. My name is Chosan Makwaza. I am a native. Really, I do not know where to start to discuss this topic. I thought Professor was going to be the first person to talk on Atola. Then would have got the lead from the elder. I know that you said you don't want for us to be lectured, and this topic of a native is a very difficult one in the situation that we find ourselves in. We have found ourselves in this situation that we are in because of the historical way that we found ourselves in this country. And I really do not know where to start on this. Can you start with somebody else, please? Because I just get touched when I listen. Can you start with somebody else, please?
Look, we're not on a counseling session. Please, let us not be emotional because the system is not emotional with us. And so, let us not be emotional. That tone, I don't like it, because it's a defeating tone for this seminar. I know it's an emotional thing because when you have to think and then you don't see solutions, But can we move away from that? May we move away from that? Okay. You will be the last person. I'll give you an opportunity again.
Good evening. My name is Jabrani Mapala. Question, answer for us natives. We must have a fund because we have been beggars ever since we were defeated. We have been beggars. And the solution has been provided by the very same gentleman. Let us have our own economic, tangible things done by us natives without blaming anyone. Otherwise, we will beg from Indians, beg from whites, beg from the Boers. Let us not. If we can have a way of raising fund from among us, 10 rand, 20 rand, and we place it there, and we have something tangible. He has said all the presidents will be charged of corruption, and they will be crowded with some. I was listening to him carefully, that's why I came here. Now, the solution, economic development for ourselves. There must be parallel land. He said they are already there. Wars, the British, he didn't mention the Indians, but I mentioned. If that is not there, why it is that we have the government there? They are all being arrested. All the top people are facing charges for corruption. He said it is continuing. That is the reason I came here, not for any other thing. That please let us raise funds. If you were saying 20 rand before we leave here, and then we'll talk about how the money is going to be used, I would say now we have started. Not begging. Not begging. We have been begging ever since we were defeated, 1652 up to now. We beg from people who have nothing except numbers, numerical strength, which is just useless. Mbongeni Ngema mentioned something similar to what he said. He said the Indians and so on and so on, They nearly tore him to pieces. And this young man repeated that definitely, if we do not do something, economic parallel line, which is Africa, what do we have? We do not have anything. You see. So that is the reason I came here, and I thank him, and this is not original. These were his points. I know that people can mention anything, but I thought it is fundamental. And because he mentioned that, is not liked at all. Because now you are saying everything which is there, which is African, has failed. And it is true, it has failed right in front of us. And yet people, because we are like sheep, they will be voting all the time, no way forward. And tell me, I think my 3 minutes is gone.
I can give you one.
Oh, okay. And so, we must be proud, all of us who are here, even those who are outside to have a young man like this, who has represented us throughout South Africa. And we must learn to see and gain up around some of us who have made a mark, as he has done. So that is my last word to say, please clap hands for this young man. Please, I plead for you, please clap hands for him before I speak.
Can I do something? Good evening, everyone. My name is Temba Zulu. I think I agree with Baba Palala. We need to participate in the economy. Actually, we need to take over the economy. Maybe one can start by advocating for the support of our own businesses. I know from time to time there will be campaigns where people will plead with us that we need to support black business. It shouldn't be. I think we've got numbers. There's so many of us. It shouldn't be really difficult for us to support each other to ensure that we all prosper. As we know, a lot of other nations like Indians, you know how they operate, you know how they support each other. If you go to an Indian businessman and ask for a service, chances are he's going to recommend a fellow Indian business person. I wonder if we do the same. I think that's all I would like to contribute. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Z Mtetwa. Yes, my professional background, I'm an engineer by profession. What we are sitting with here is, when we're addressing the native question, I think the most dominant factor is economics. So, if you go to a number of countries, the people, the native majority, is in control of the economy in those particular countries. And the people who set the agenda in that country, in those countries, are the native majority. And what I was actually looking at was the solution for us is that we need to actually question the regime under which we are operating. We are operating, if we look at the legal system in South Africa, it's on the basis of a Roman Dutch system. The Roman Dutch system, what is it designed to serve? When we are questioning, let's question that part. We are operating in a legal system that is not designed to assist us. The legal system is hostile to Africans. So how can an African country be having a legal system on the basis of foreign values? So I think one of the solutions is we need to actually question the legal system, and we not just question this legal system. Coming back to the issue of the economy. The thing is with economy, as the other gentleman Mr. Zulu has correctly mentioned, that if you look at the communities, the different national communities in South Africa, if you look at the Indian community, they work together as a people. So what will happen is most likely when you are in need of a service, the people who you get recommended to are the people from within their community. So I think we have to look at that. Let's question the legal system. Let's question and challenge it.
Someone, I'm Stemile Gamiez. I think, like the fellows have said, the issue of the economy is one thing that is hindering us. And I think in a way that we can address it, because as a native, I think one thing that we are gifted with, in spite of the past that we are coming from, we have a basic education. I don't want to, my brother has said that as we are here, we are all the same. That is why I'm saying a basic education. Umfowetulana has mentioned Duguti is an engineer. I'm also doing something, and some of us are in business. But if we can put all the careers that we have together and say, what can we do? Like, that is the big question for today. What can we do to change the economy? Because we cannot wait for government to change things for us. Especially this time around, I think each and every one of us has a role to play. But we need to pull out all our ideas together. If we want to source even a funding, it shouldn't be an individual funding like what we are seeing happening today in South Africa, that one is benefiting alone. You'll find one person being a billionaire. That's what we've been seeing previously. I remember when I grew up, there was one family that was filthy rich, black, native. That one person, that family that was filthy rich. But I think it's high time that we try by all means to put together our skills and see what we can do in contributing to the economy and building the future for the coming generation.
There is no right and wrong when we provide a solution. And so just have confidence, there is no right and wrong. And so thanks a lot.
Baba, I'm the dictator for today.
Good evening. Actually, don't know what to say. I think what always boggles my mind is what can we do? So I know that as natives we want to have the status quo changed, but I think we still struggle with pulling each other up. So my challenge for tonight would be, how do we pull each other up instead of, like Usisi said, you know, you get one billionaire somewhere and they don't share how they got there. Or sometimes one gets there and doesn't want the other natives to follow suit. So how do we stop, I don't know, for lack of a better word, umona, or just wanting to be the only ones? You know, it's nice that we're saying natives need to own the economy, but if we not for each other, then how will we even get there?
Can I say this now? Can we also look at the systems and structures that are governing our country on how can we deal with them in order to accommodate us? Let's go to that level of system and structures on how do we redefine them, because the system and structures in our country are the ones who held us as hostage and are the ones that make us to come here and talk. Can we go to that level on how really do we, because Mzee has already started. In Johannesburg, one guy said to us, look, we need really to revisit the issue of this constitution. And you have seen for the past, I don't know since when, our judiciary. Yesterday we saw black people trying to interpret words, concepts, you know, and they were not even agreeing on this concept. And so can we go to that level on system and structures so that we really understand our oppression where it emanates from? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Fusikanyile. I am a proud native, born and bred in Adams Mission. And if you take us back, the first president where African National Congress was in my church. I was born with this struggle. I have a problem. Ukuthi thina as African people, the colonizers have achieved ukuthi bawuthathe umqondo wethu bawuvalele in a box. Because even our thinking now is about sicabanga ngocolonizer. Ucolonize into akwazi ukuyenza. Thina into okudinga siyishintshe, we need a paradigm shift. Manje. But amabhuno uma esuka ethatha kumangisi, amabhuno abhala esenteni athi unity is strength. I'm happy to see us simnyama sonke la, and I hope we all feel the same as natives. Now, indaba enkulu, we are very fortunate ukuthi we were born in this land that is so wealthy and it's so rich in all the minerals. Because I think even now, our country is rated double junk status. Yet our country, they say it's owing 5 trillion, when our country is worth more than 100 trillion. Now it is up to us, the natives, because the people came here in 1652, when we were there, to come and trade with us, took all our economy. We were the people with the economy. We are the people that are born in a country with all the minerals. Now we need a paradigm shift to say to those people that are representing us, they must get out of the office now. We have to run this. We need to put a moratorium in all the minerals, because that is our wealth that will take us from the junk status. So together here, I'm happy if we can mobilize all the blacks in South Africa who have the same thinking like us. I'm not saying like me, because me, I feel the oppression of being colonized. We need to even change the curriculum, because the curriculum was made for us to be inferior, because the colonizer never expected us to be on their level. This is the paradigm that we need to shift. But our first priority there who are the brothers and friends of the colonizers, that every night the flights are taking our minerals. Let's put a moratorium to that. Then we are going somewhere, because God has put us here for a purpose. We are the richest people, but we are rated as the junk. Yet we have all these minerals that all the colonizers are eyeing in this country. They're doing all kinds of methodologies to make sure they depopularize us. They want us to be reduced so that they have. But fortunately for them, everything was set on Codesa. Then this native was killed on Codesa. It's about time. We need to change whatever was agreed on Codesa to change our lives. This is the only solution. We have what they need. They are rating us as double jump status, yet they are wealthy. They rated themselves as number one through our wealth. What's wrong with this picture? What rubbish is this? This is total rubbish. That our country is rated rubbish, yet they are number one because of our wealth. Guys, if we begin this now, let's begin forever. The guys that we were fighting with, they are underground. Comrades, money, or Chris Hani. Tokozani can attest. Mahwaza. We are the survivors of the system. That's why I'm talking like this. Because if we don't challenge that, my brother, then it's a futile exercise. We are wasting your time. If we cannot challenge the methodology that the colonizer has applied to oppress us. And this is that is the mind shift we need, Bab Mapalala. Spile nani wazulu. Kahlala wazulu target. I was target number 4. I buried people. Tokozani can attest. I'm happy for this forum again. And my brother, I'm 66 years full today. And I'm still struggling. But I have the brains. I've been working for the colonizers. Bakila Mabilis or Imban's building. Bakiwa or 88 Field Street. But through Amandlami, serving, taking money and giving them from our people. This is rubbish. This cannot continue.
Angibonge mphathi wohlelo. Ngizoyiqala ngesizulu. I'm doing that deliberately so. If singakabuyi ngingumfowethu ngowakwaZungu isibongo. If singakabuyisi liberation of our own identity and consciousness, you will find ukuthi si reinforce lama institutions noma izakhiwo ezisenza sihlale sibambeke njengey'nkukhu ey'suka emtuba zazofika lapha zalokuyiqhubeka zithi zibushe. Okokuqala, bringing back ulwimi lwethu. Ngikusoscience, zange silibone negama elicodifier okuthile esikwenza lapha kuscience. Wahamba waqeda ama-university. Akukho lapho ubona ufetharishwa khona i-identity of the population that was existing. ngikhuluma nomuntu ongisiza e-office ukuthi i-population yaKwaZulu Natal inabantu abangaphezu kwa-85% abakhuluma ulwimi lwesiZulu. Kodwa lo 85% njalo uma uzoconsulta kodokotela noma uzokwenzani kumele uhuyushelwe labantu abazofuna usizo. Sihlangana emhlanganweni ofana nalo. I'm of the view ukuthi people abakhona lapha ngabantu abakhuluma ulimi lwamageba. Kodwa ibona kumele sibahumushele kulezi ingxoxo esikhulumayo. Indlela ama-institutions e-state akhandwe ngayo, akhandwe ngendlela yokuthi ithina manje okumele sihunyushelwe ulwimi lwethu lwesiZulu in KwaZulu Natal, not in South Africa. Aliyona i-business language. Ulwimi lokubingelela ukuphelela esangweni ku-security, then uma ungena ngaphakathi kumele ushintshe bese ukhuluma ulwimi lolokujeneka. The very same language esithi is colonized. Kodwa ke ngoba i-trend sisethiwe lapha ukuthi sizo-address umhlangano ngoba in all conferences sikhuluma ngesingisi. My first point is that we need to bring back that consciousness. In the family unit, the codification of our own language in the business platforms. The institutional arrangements akhona uhamba umkele umgwaqo ngaphandle kwe-codification ye-language yethu ema-office nakho konke iba uyifunda ngolimi lokuhamba kuze kuphindwe ngisho i-language yakho uma kunenisho umgwaqo ubhala ukuthi umlasi and sivume lokho. Kodwa-ke one kuma-formal institutions yethu naku-family unit, we need to start instilling the culture of being proud to be a native, to be an African. Njengamanje ngine-pride yokuvuka ekuseni ngiyisosa ingane yami. I don't even participate kulama school governing bodies alezi iy'kole ey'khona la public. I would rather take my child to the other side of town lapho kukhulunywa khona isingisi and it becomes a family language ukusebenzisa isingisi ekhaya ngoba this is the business language. The other part, transforming the education system yethu. Education system yethu is not a past language ukuze ungene e-university e-South Africa kumele uphase isingisi bese uphase i-physics, uphase i-biology, uphase i-mathematics, usuyakwazi ukuthi hayi-ke usungaba udokotela, usungaba yini, usungandizisa amabhanoyi. Uma ungakaphasi lolu lwimi le-colonizer noma ungaphasa konke lokho kunye ngama-flying colors, you are useless in the economy yezwe lethu. If singakaqali kulawo ma-basics, the culture, irrespect ye-culture yethu, kubani owathi uma kumele ube ngu-director general noma kumele ube ukuthi kumele ufake ibhantshi, ugqoke ibhantshi uma uye emsebenzini. Kodwa wafaka isiphanga, hayi sekuthiwa une-infection. We are not dealing with the basics, cultural, the consciousness, and also dealing with ama-institutional arrangements akhona esi-operator phansi kwawo, and also by the time sifika ku-economy, the economy has to be defined from our own black consciousness perspective. Njengamanje i-economy yethu i-definwa according to the colonizer perspective. That's another part. We're still struggling even to define our own economy, ngeyethu perspective, the cultural perspective, even the governance system. You getting to the medical terrain, indigenous knowledge has been thrown out of the window. We start inheriting izinto ngoba sezidefine ngosomakhemisi abazidefine somewhere ukuthi aloe vera iyasebenza. Bese sigijima ke soyithenga ngoba isisekhemisi. Kunesihlahla bekhulunywa ngaso njengoba bekwande igciwane le-COVID njengoba landele nje. Ngoba sekuthiwa sisetshenziswa e-Australia manje akusaze kuthiwa yini lesihlahla umhlonyana. Sesizogijima ke sihambe siyofuna ke manje. Ngoba usudefine ngomunye our own. So let us deal with our own institutional arrangements coming from the family institution, the education system, the governance system, the codification of our indigenous language, if a part of the system.
Okay. This is our forum, and so we are going to talk.
Sanibonani. Sawenkosi wabahlobo. Okwami mhlambe ngizonikela qali in the form of a question ukuthi are we now, when raising this native question, are we now arousing pan-Africanism within our society? Because I cannot divorce Pan-Africanism from my being a native. That therefore shakes political beliefs in reality. Number two, in South Africa, a democratic dispensation inherited a madhouse. Izalelwe emakhaya ngabekwakhiwa khona izindlu zodaka. Indlu makwakhiwa indlu yodaka bekumbiwa i-trench engangeqakala. My brother ngokubumini. Emfishane nje bese kuxisha udaka. Kube yini. But now when South Africa moved from the apartheid regime to a democratic dispensation, the madhouse was not collapsed, but kwakiwa a multi-storied building on top of a madhouse foundation. Why am I saying that? We would see nothing about the past was abolished. As natives, as fellow natives, we question how a fellow native has acquired his or her wealth. It's either utwele noma ucorrupt. Ikhona ukufika qala thina. We cannot legitimize our own successes. There is a big problem. I think mhlawumbe wami umnikelo ungaqala lapho ukuthi asidile izindlu yodaka bese simba ama-trenches that are deep enough in engineering terms to build a multi-storied building. Because the foundation for East South Africa and our society to thrive on ayikho njengamanje. Ngiyabonga.
Sanibonani. My name is Nkoskhona Duma. You know what's Dube? I came here with a hope, based on my conversations with you, that we were going to go on a path of progress. So far, I have not seen any of it. I have seen what you want against at first, emotions. It is a side of emotion. And we need counselors here. It's intellectual masturbation.
being subjected to conversations that were had in 1994 about how we are so oppressed, about how we have no control over the economy. What are we supposed to do when you tell us that? Are we supposed to clap hands? You have diagnosed the problem. Nativity. What is a native? Are you a native because you are black? Are you a native because of isiZulu? Or is it just because you are black even though you don't speak isiZulu? Is there an idea? I get a sense that there is a belief in this house that black Africans or Zulu Africans or maybe the people of eThekwini suffer from a special type of oppression. There's indigenous communities in Australia, in Canada, in Brazil are not subjected to. So let me raise an issue here of structures in the economy. That has not been engaged on. Instead, we were told that there are countries where the natives are in control of the economy. That is a myth, and it went uncorrected because of your democratic view about this entire thing. We survive on a monopoly capitalist world. To suggest that just because 5 white people in a population of 2,000 are in control of the economy, therefore the native of white people in the country are therefore in control of the economy is a myth. And there has not been that admission in this house. The sense here is that we must compass, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but Ukoyani set the scene when he said that we are not here for a counseling session. If, while shouting, if you suffer from an inferior complex within your mind, don't then prescribe that to all of us. I am black, but I'm not going to come here and accept a narrative that on the basis of my blackness, I am intellectually oppressed. I may suffer from physical oppression, economic oppression, that is a matter of fact. It's something you study, there are scientists here, so they will tell you that. How will we even begin to reimagine ourselves if we hear the glorification of township schools? We are being told because where will I go if I am in a township school? If I had gone to a township school, I've got friends that started outside a township school. I would never be where I am at. Who here can afford to send their child to a school outside the township and they're not doing so? So, the idea of self-aggrandizement, emotions, that time is over. My challenge as a young person in this world, as an indigenous person, because of the structure he spoke about, are the issues of ecology. We live in a globalized world. We do not suffer from a special type of oppression because we are black and Zulu. There are indigenous peoples all over the world. Coronavirus, the structure of the economy, the monopolization of education, the monopolization, the ownership of natural resources. These are ideas that can be discussed in Washington and then implemented here. And we are going to waste our time sitting here talking about how Rupert groupers and their forces used to abuse you. Problems of climate change, ecology. The changes that are being implemented, we are all, the assumption is that we are Durbanites here. Do you know the role of Transnet in the Durban Harbour? Who here has engaged about what is happening in the freight industry right now? These are things. The importance of the harbour down here on our coast. The goods that are coming in here, the legal framework that is going on, the maintenance of that harbour, the imagining of the future, thinking about it, the fact that we're using sand on our beaches. I am not going to come here and just be subjected to intellectual masturbation, as I said earlier. I think what you need to do is to first and foremost establish what our problems are, and their structure. And once we have done that, we formulate solutions cognizant of the global challenges that exist, the localized barriers that exist, understanding that equality, equity, appreciating the fact that we are not homogeneous, appreciating heterogeneity. Because I will tell you something, as a black person, in my career, the biggest hindrance is having black people. People who have had issues with the fact that I have this hair, have been black. So we know what the challenges are, but I am not going to be having conversations that we had in 1994. I refuse to have them here. I think we know we need to invest more in understanding the world in which we live, in understanding movement of people, in understanding there's going to be perpetual mixing. That's in our world right now. You are never going to be in a situation where there is no immigrant in Durban, where there is no Christian in Durban, where there is no atheist in Durban, where there is where there is no gay people, where there is no straight people. Are you talking about that? Is that an uncomfortable discussion? Why do I still am in a position where I tell people, I wasn't raised as Sabela Madhusikai. There was never that culture. I'm being honest, it was all Jesus. I later grew up to be non-religious, but it was all Jesus Christ. So, I'm going to have a problem with that because there's a...
Can we do this, man? I think we are here to hear people's thinking, and can we really respect each other? If you have a different view, it's highly appreciated. And another thing, as I'm saying, we as the natives, we need to understand lots of things about us. And so when you shut someone down, you never understand who we are. Can we allow that? Thanks.
Okay.
Just go straight to the issue.
I think, okay, it is very much in line with that. Intolerance as soon as there is difference. And that is why it is rather comfortable for us to come here and talk about how much these white people are oppressing us. Because once we start addressing issues within our own house, we then realize how long the chain is going to take us. And this moment that has just taken place is proof of that. how then do you say that that person who has had a history like me, who thinks the way I do, who knows that my biggest challenge right now is the fact that a month ago, when women were being massacred in a town south coast, and an MEC of the province said, the reason why we don't have police and law enforcement in that community is because of the apartheid government. And we are not supposed to engage on that because it's embarrassing to black people. Thank you, Kola.
There was a person who was having a different view from him. I would like to offer that person an opportunity. That's why you are here. But let us not be personal, let's engage on substance. Let us not be personal about please. And can also move from personalizing and put our discussion in the context of why we are here.
Sanibona natives. Usicelo Duma. I think, first of all, I know Roland said there must be no preamble and all that, but we must respect and appreciate what Xubera and yourself, Roland, has done to put us together under one roof. Because we only get together under one roof when we've gone to either funerals or omlazi, but now I think people who are here are beyond the John Gate. I think people who are here are intelligent enough to understand what the situation is going on in the world. I'm excited, Olani, to see Obaba Ukanyile getting angry. Because the first thing that we need to do as natives is to be angry. Angry with the situation that we find ourselves in. And the truth is, we are, as South Africa, unique in our struggle. Why I'm saying this, we are a damn majority of useless people. Damn majority of useless people. You go to Sentin, you are walking in Sentin, you find this damn so-called native looking at you saying, what is this one doing here? These are challenges that you are faced with. Challenges that when I grew up, you will do your math. If you did your math, you will know how old I am. In 1976, I was 3 years old. Then you will know how old I am. So, but before I even turned 15, I was already in exile. Because the system forced me at that time. I come from Wamashu, section of the go to room. Abani, they called us, for lack of a better word, almost Boshisani, because we shared toilets. I'm talking reality, I'm not talking theory. Some of people here, they're so sophisticated that they look like they come from Canada. I'm from Wamashu, Otsuru, and I pulled my boots, I pulled myself with my boots to be wherever I am in life now. Nobody did me a favor, not even ANC. With my attitude, I was able to educate more than, or to pay for education for more than 500 comrades. I'm saying this without fear. If you like, you can quote me, you can take it to Lutuli House, they know this, United Nations knows this. Because this is what we've done for our people. Today you find people worried about Range Rovers. What the damn are you mechanics? Are you mechanics? Yes, we love cars, we love things, we love a good life. It's not a crime. But now the problem is our nativity, being natives, we've thrown it out of the window just because, number one, Umhabulo is gone. That is why we'll find young ones, youth, getting confused as they are. Sometimes I find myself in my house, I don't know whether I'm in New York or anywhere. My son speaks with a twang. He can't speak his Zulu, as my brother was saying there. I don't have time to be sitting teaching you Zulu. And don't think I will lie to you and say he must go to Makadin, where Miss Maisela is not committed to educating a child. Where right now teachers are thinking, I'm talking about black teachers, natives are busy thinking, what can we do to strike in January? Workers in the municipalities, the so-called Samu and the rest of them, I'm sorry to be personal, but I've got to be angry. You find officials driving cars. I'm in business. I can't afford a car that's driven by an official. Because corruption has been embedded in us. It is so bad that we've embraced this. We who have struggled, it's not that all of us here have struggled. I mean, there's no one who is better, that will struggle better than the other. That's where the problem is starting. It starts with those who think they are more MK than some others. Someone who sees me with this class will not think I'm an MK, will think I'm a CC type or something. But I'm a damn MK. Give me a gun, I'll shoot you. So this is what's happening here. The problem is the native, yes, is the economy, but it starts with the fact that we must come together like this. What on earth a country with a majority will see Amapuno, a Senegal, getting angry, turning upside down, tipping a police van, banning it, and the police doing nothing. But when the EFF is standing, not banning anything, saying something, then the EFF is being attacked. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? Another thing which is critical, which is very critical, is the fact that I like looking at Impunga, not over Impunga now, but I prefer looking at Impunga because they think differently. You find our intelligentsia, our academics, on all these people, they are quantifying on things that that are not helping anybody, or that are not helping our communities. And one thing our communities age as black people, as natives, we are so used of this thing, Yamahewa. Everything we have been given for free. Everything we must demand. Years ago, I'm going to this thing of saying, what are we doing about it? Years ago, the ex-city manager of Etiwini was asked to say who is benefiting from all these tenders. The list was asked for. What happened instead? They changed the gentleman or the company that was busy investigating those things, and they gave it to another company. So, in closing, I would say, as natives, what we need to do is to continue with what we are doing right now, and thanks for this opportunity. And also, our president, we must be able to have some people who go and face and present our aspirations. Because sitting like this is not helping us. It will help us when we sit and present it. Thank you.
Sanibonani. Uyangiphoxa-ke uMaqhama la ukuthi ngibingelele igama ngumbusiswa weNgcobo. Ngizwile lonke esenikhulumile. Ngiyathanda futhi nonke njengoba nikhona la ekhaya. Nami ngizizwa ngikhululekile. Cha ngithi abaphefumula abantu bakhona ilokhu. Engakusho mhlawumbe ngosebenzisa isingisi ngoba mhlawumbe isiZulu futhi nesiZulu singayigcizelela le nto ukuthi ke sifundiswe ngesingisi. Sonke nje ispace si-congested. Sonke ispace si-congested. Whether you talk local, regional, district, province, SADC, ECOWAS, COMESA, you go global, Eastern Bloc, Western Bloc, right around the globe. The economic space is congested. So, the underlying message là is that as we organized, organized, we've got too many sugar, but our formations, business formations, scientific, many disciplines. Numbers are it's been 27 years I want to graduate equally back on the experience. But our formations are very collective. So as accepted, we contested terrain, the shell, my formations are strong, the servants. So we underlying pillar is basically contested, job organized, organized. Sebeshilo ngezinhlanga ezithize khona abanye abafikayo manje baqhamuka nge-Eastern Bloc bakhona manje nabo la ba-organized. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. My name is Bongenkosi Gift Education Kanye. I think as black people, we need to agree that we are currently in a criminal, secular, patriarchal, sexist, and anti-black colonial culture. I think that we must agree from that premise. If we then agree from that premise, we must therefore agree that those who are currently leading our country, who are in charge of our country, they are not doing us a favor. The country is not led by P.W. Board. The country is not led by Jan Smart. The country is not led by Verwoerd. The country is led by a black leader. We have black mayors, we have black president, we have everything black that is currently leading our country. But what is happening in our country? They killed Andrew Dadana. In the democratic dispensation, who was in a protest, protesting for service delivery. They killed workers in Marikana. Workers in Marikana who were demanding a living wage, who are mining in the London mine. They were killed by black government. Young people protested in 2015-2016 in demand of free decolonial education, where they were demanding that education must be free in terms of its monetary value and in terms of its content. That education must be Africanized, it must be decolonized, it must reflect the aspirations of black people and the imaginations of black people. When they said, we need African problems, we need African solutions to African problems, more than 850 students were sent to jail. Others arrested, their careers destroyed. Some are still now under house arrest by black government. Currently in South Africa, black families are in the turmoil. The gender question is on the gender infights in our families is on the rise. Men are attacking women, are attacking children. Black men are even killing themselves in South Africa. And it's all happening under a black government. Prof Lubumba once said, I know I have 3 minutes, my brother, even this 3 minutes is anti-black because sometimes when you speak, even the ancestors want to speak with us. So they cannot be timed. Even Prof Lubumba has taught us that those in Africa who are in power are the ones who are without ideas, and those who are with ideas are not in power. I am saying, for us to have such a meeting, it is a step towards the right direction. Because for any idea to be represented, for any idea to become a living idea, first people must be organized. They must first be organized. And I can tell you now, black people are not organized in this country. We are many, but we are not organized. Even those who are leading us, they are leading us without any particular agenda towards the liberation of the African people. We are a country without any consciousness of self. You can go to art, to music, you listen to the songs that are being said in our country. Then you sit down, you say, as a young person of this country, what are we teaching our generation as black people? You go to the judiciary. The judiciary under black government, the judiciary is anti-black. The constitution in this country is anti-black. You go to the land is with the minorities. The mines are under private ownership. Even now they're in the process of privatizing what you call this thing? They want to privatize water under black government. Imagine the country, you are the government, you want to privatize water, you privatize aeroplanes, you privatize the land is already under private ownership, the mines are under private ownership. What are you governing as a black government? And when these things are privatized, they don't go to black private owners, they are privatized by your criminal, secular, colonial, white, male individuals under this black government. So I'm saying, my brother, as we convene here, we owe it to ourselves to also call a spade, not a spade a Piccati spoon. This country is on an autopilot. The elders who are leading this country are leading us astray. In this gathering that you are consolidating, those should be part of our discussions. What do we do when the country is on an autopilot? Because they want a comfortable life, they want to live nice. They are leading us so that they can secure themselves a seat in a dinner table when they are selling our country to the West and the Easterns. And ourselves are Africans. Those who say they were in exile, correctly, we appreciate we were in exile, we were supported by Russia and China and Cuba, but we have no business of the East. The East to us as Africans is the same as the West, all of them. You don't bring Chinese to a back door because they gave us arms when we're in the arms struggle. When we say we don't want the West because they are oppressors, we don't say we want better oppressors in the form of East. I'm saying those are the conversations that we need to have. The question of leadership, because to say that we are led by black people in terms of their skin pigmentation, it doesn't assist, because there are those ones who are black in terms of skin pigmentation, but the agenda they are pushing is pro-white. Some of them, even they speak, you can see this person is a white person. The tone here, this one is white, this one. Even the walk, even the way he stands as a white man, this one. That is the country we are currently under. So I'm saying those are the conversations that we need to have. The question of our leadership, what kind of people should be leading us? As we are convening here, what is the message that we are sending to those who are leading us? The question of economy, I was very perplexed when my leader, when he began to speak, he said we must have an economy and organize our own economy. fund what? Because we must first agree, what is it that we are funding? We don't want to organize the economy. The next thing, my brother, you come with Range Rovers, you are flamboyant, you smell very nice, you are in charge. We need an idea on the table. What is the country we are imagining, the things that we want to do, and what is the program that we want to fund? It must be on the table. Thank you very much. I think I'm still going to speak, Moses.
I think if we have reached a particular term, I've been very, we are left with almost 30 minutes, to be quite honest. And we have been descriptive to our programs. That's what I've observed. And we have not made any progress. Because what I was appealing to all of us is that when we gather here, because of time and space where we are, we need to come up or to craft concrete ideas on how, first and foremost, and inward one, as we are here, what can we do in order to move forward? First, as we are here, what kind of ideas do we have? And then from there, what you raise is very important. As I said it earlier on, and Utuma said it, and Umzi raised that issue. Can we no longer lament and be descriptive to our programs? We've done that now. Surely all of us, we know now that black people are oppressed. Apartheid was not meant for us. The elite transition, as I've said, post-1994 is not meant for us. We know that the politicians have sold us. We know we are powerless. We don't have education. We don't have economy. We are nothing. We know that we are nothing. We know that we are nothing. We don't control anything. We don't even control your child, Babwa, as you have said. You have lost even your child to the system. And so, can we discuss from a position of nothingness? Can we move from that premise of nothingness, of worthlessness, to say, as we are nothing, how can we rise like Phoenix from being nothing? Don't tell us how much nothing we are. We know. I gave you time, and we know that you have been sold. We know Cyril. We know everything. We know. We don't want to hear anymore. Can we move from the premise of nothingness? Can we do that? I'll give 5 hands to people who will tell us from the premise of nothingness to become something and to provide concrete solution that when we meet again, we know that we are not praying for heaven. We are not saying we are going to heaven. We are saying these are practical things that we need to do in this world for our next generation in order to move forward. Can we do that? And so if you are going to tell us about how powerless we are, all those, please don't raise your hand. We just want solution. That's what we want now. If you say tomorrow we must act, and our solution must be practical and it must be actionable, meaning that we need to do something, because you are recording this. And surely for an hour now, is about how powerless we are and all those things. It was worthless, to be quite honest. And so now, can we move from the premise of nothingness and how can we rise and become something? Let's leave that skin, the past skin. I know it's a heavy one. The German went into 2 world wars, but when they speak today, they are talking about the future. The Jews, they were in the Holocaust, they were killed, everything, exterminated. but today they are talking about the future, they are controlling the world. They are not sitting and basking on how the Germans kill them. They are still hunting the Germans even today, you must know that. They are fighting. And so can we have that spirit? Baba, let me give it to you.
Ngiyabonga. Angazi noma ngiyezwakala. Inkonyane lukaBaloyi leli elikhulumayo. Ngisifika namthwalo lapha kwaso. Ngingumtswana ozalwa eShangane eliganwe ngumZulu. Engithe uma sengikhula indawo yami yokuqala engasebenza kuyona kwakusemaXhoseni. You can then derive the value of the path in life that I've led. I was born a typical urban bumpkin, and by the stroke of H. Verwoerd, when he found a gentleman who was not fit to be in charge of whites, my father lost his job and I became a Natalian. Now, let that be history. I would like us to remember that our parents, and when I look at most of you here, you may be as lucky as ours. Our parents were very great people. They succeeded in starting things that they wanted without assistance from anybody, but with assistance from cooperating each with the other. Now, I think that knowledge, if you were brought up by some such parents, then all of us have what it takes to fall back to the methods that they used, to the systems that they used under those conditions that make them succeed. Abanye bethu sizalwa amadoda okuthi namhlanje manikhuluma nibangisana nikhuluma ngonyanga nikhuluma ngoNAFCOC. We are sons and daughters of the founders of those entities, which today I'm afraid to say sebangiswana ngakho, instead of building on those skills to make us what we can be. I'll tell you what I tried to do, which I wish I could influence other people to also try and do. It's not a coincidence that in the early 60s, I think an age group of between 18 and 26. The youngest of us was 18, and the eldest of us was 26, which were in 26. But you know what? Because we were determined to do things the way we felt, uninfluenced by who oppresses us. The first thing that emerged was USASO, and beyond SASO by measure, a black consciousness. And it's sad that black consciousness seems to be polluted by the word black. It is, ladies and gentlemen, about consciousness. And from consciousness, we are going to make ourselves able to learn from the world that exists around us. Stop complaining about it. Get the experience, emerge out of the experience, and make the best with what you've got. I'm glad I made my own decision. Qualified here at town. I was offered lots of things in town, but because of the consciousness that we had, I elected to go and make myself useful in those communities that were deprived of leaders. I'm proud to say that it is encouraging when you go out there in the sticks and you live in an environment where people begin to ask the question, that was healthy to hear from Abantu Abasemaphandle. They would ask, but you know, you don't behave like people who are learned. It embarrassed me, I didn't know how to handle it. But then also let me share with you that having benefited from higher education, university education, I'm telling you some of my best tutors, people that have picked up brains that made me who I am today, never went to school. If we can look for those things and let those things build us, our system has never been flawed. Yes, colonialism started as Susa, or that is system unit. Remember, most of you guys, if you are not as lucky as my father went to school at age 5. When at his time, Babe Kale Bayo Kale, 14, 15, we call very schooling. My dad was at school at 5. And when he was a teacher, but this is what I'd like us to know. There is nothing in our indigenous environment, whatever level they are, there's nothing we cannot do. Adopt a community, each one of you. Even if it means you're not going to give them money or find resources, but adopt a community that you will be their so-called spokesperson in many things. When at the time we learned that our communities are going to regard us as leaders, we assumed that leadership. We walked on, we did things. We never wanted to be paid for it. Uma sifuna ukwenza izinto singaqala la singafuna ukukhokhelwa, sifune ukuthi sibe abaholi abakwazi ukuthi babekezelele ukuphakamisa abantu. Then our strategies and attempts will be about those simple things which are the stepping stones to the next level. Ayikho into soyithola isivuthiwe iyovuthiswa yithina kodwa iyobe yakhiwe yithina.
I think that's a huge task. That you don't simply eat a muffin, that you don't know who baked it. That's the most important thing.
This subject is a very emotive subject, and I know education now. So I think you were standing there and you said we need to talk about, look at what is it that we can do in order to change our situation. You spoke about the issue of structural change, constitutional change, and all of those things, all the things that we have spoken about. I can tell you straight, uzalelwe kwa-N, ko-Turum, ngizalelwe kwa-J, Ramshazafu kwamanje. Ngiyazi o-education oduma bafike lezi zinto seza-extend abasakwazi ukukhomba ukuthi kwakunjani before. some of us comes from there. I think Ungwan has mentioned ukuthi siney'clash namaqopha amnyama hayi ngendaba yakarati ngoba sasiqombothwa ngalezo y'khathi. Sinenkinga thina ngale constitution esinayo. Konke losikhuluma ngakho la akuzange kube khona ushintsho ngo-1994. This thing was predetermined before uMandela. uMandela uyazi naye, ningangizonda ningizondeleni lama meetings ayeba nawo at the time at AAs and some of the first step and all those kind of things. The constitution as you see it today, it was a predetermined and pre-planned, and we find ourselves in a situation like we are today. We spoke about the issue of education. We are not being taken care of in this country with the changes that has come into this country. Till now, we are not catered for. We are still not catered for. Type of education that we got. I'm a proud Bantu education person, and I can say too, just like you, Uguti, I worked hard to raise myself to the level that I find myself in. I've been around in this country, and I've been around the government, and I've been around in the private sector. I've seen almost, not all, but I've seen so many things. And ngikhuzukile. Abanye abarecognize usibazokwazi ukuthi ngikhuzukile ngempela, ngakhuzula. Angikhuzulwa ngomlungu ke mina. Bengakhuzulwa belungu, bengikhuzulwa abantu abamnyama. Right? On mutual practice job reservation, they trained me, they took me to Cape Town. From Cape Town, they crossed past all the towns and villages. They threw me to Venda. Right? Venda. La ngangikaze ngize ngimuze umuntu ekhuluma khona ngathi ngehlike emotweni eVenda sana umuntu wangibhekela yendaba yebani. All those things is the things that makes you a better person. So the solutions, as far as I'm concerned, we need to start looking at the issue of the constitution of this country. We've got to revisit the constitution. And we've been admiring the Brexit, and other countries have been having referendums. So if there is something that we need to do as us, for us to be able to take care of all the things that we've been talking about, the basic tenet of whatever change that we need is the constitution. Because the judiciary, I don't know who spoke about the judiciary. The judiciary, as we see it, we watch every day. We're watching the issue of Xubera yesterday. We saw how those judges were hitting on Skaka, but we saw how benevolent they were towards Patlenda. And the way they behave, you can tell. The same black people, it's not white people, it's black judges who are doing ill things to us as blacks. I'm not saying that I support Xubera, I'm not saying that I'm supporting Skaka, but you can see the unfairness that is there within the structures that we have in this country. The education system that we have, it hasn't changed. Yes, if I can afford to take my child to a better school, I will take my child to a better school. Not because of Malegeli Nabezu. One time my child was, we prayed at night, my boy, we give him a scripture to read, the Zulu Bible, and he comes to a Tempezu, and they say Fizulu, right? All those things are not good things, Ellen, but it starts from the way that this system of education is. I'm saying that as this group, we can start instigating on the issue of referendum, of us visiting the constitution. Then almost all the things that we're talking about, including the economy, then is going to be taken care of.
There is a person who's here. It's Professor Chris Madekana, and he's going to say something when all of us, we are done. And so I'll urge all of us not to leave the room, because what he's going to say is very important. And is one of the reasons why we are here today.
because we said to ourselves, we need not just to evaporate like any other structures before us, but we need to sit and try to come or to try to craft something that can possible we can use to navigate this quagmire. Babam Kiss.
Thank you very much. My name is Bandile Mkize, and I'm not going to be very long. I want to start from the premise that says there is always strength in numbers. And go on and say, one swallow has never made a summer. So as the natives, we have to bond together and work towards solving the problems that we have identified. I agree with those that have said the time for lamenting is over. Now we've got to bond together and tackle these problems head on without fear or favor. But where we've got to start is a structure. You cannot solve any problem without a structure. So we are talking here as individuals, we don't even know who we belong to, who we are as we speak. So it is important for us to have a structure, and we know that we belong to that structure, and whatever we do as part of the structure. And we must always keep in mind that there is strength in numbers. And up to now, we have not used our numbers as our strength. Thank you.
Sweet, short, and straight to the point. Because we are an emotional person. And so, sweet and straight to the point.
into engiqaphelile emsebenzisa kodwa isikhathi ngiyakhona ukuthi endabeni ngizwakele ngoba ubuhlungu ngoba desho mfowethu ukuthi kwesinye isikhathi ukuthi uma ufika endaweni enjengalezi makhuluma mhlawumbe kukhona okuphimisayo uthola ukuthi awuhambi wedwa khona abantu abathile abasemoyeni abasuke belalele futhi abafuna ukuphimisayo ake ngiveze lokho mfowethu okokuqala mhlawumbe mangisakhuluma leyo ndaba sibona ngazathi ezweni lakithi kunje ngizokhuluma nje kakhulu ngesifundazwe sakithi kuqala ngaphambi ngifike kwezinye indawo yize sisezweni lelo sibona ngazathi namhlanje kukhona ukudayisana phakathi kwethu nokunganaki noma nokuxokiza ongaba phakathi kwethu ukuthi wena nzwakele uma sekwenzekile uNkulunkulu mhlawumbe ukubusisa lamanedlo lakho la kubusisa wahlala uhleli khona awusenze ukumcabangela omunye umuntu olapha edini kodwa uzobheka omunye useduze kwakho ongaba yizathu ezahlukene engafuni ukungena kuzo kodwa kufanele sihlele sibheke ikakhulukazi umuntu walesi sizwe sakaZulu ukuthi ukulimala kwakhe kwalinyaza abantu ababethi ayebathembile ukuthi kufanele sikwenze okokuqala ukuthi sigeze lokho ngoba emva kwalokho babe seqhamuka isiqalekiso esehlela thina njengesifundazwe angeke lize libuse lokhu siwenza inkonjana siyazibona-ke nathi ngoba noma sithi siyazama sithi senzani phakathi kwethu vele kuqhamuke ilanga lethu umuntu avele eyibone ungathi yena uma ngabe kukhona okuthile okuqhamukayo abone ibhodwe ukuconsa kwalo uyabazi bogovalo angeke sikhulume kakhulu uma singaqala silungisa into enjengaleyo ebese singene ekuthenini sazi ukuthi njengoba singabantu kwakukhona isiko sasinalo okwakuyisiko lokusisa namhlanje siyathokoza basibona umuntu engenalutho yingakho namhlanje kukhona abantu abathwele sekuzokuthi kumnani sekuseyinhliziyo enzini nasebezwinyeni nana abanye bekuthi bayakwazi banehloko ukuthi ey'ndala uma abanye bengenjani phakathi kwethu bafika angikho-ke sizongena endabeni yezolimo ey'koleni indaba zezolimo nendlela zimqoka ukuthi nje umuntu angalambi eswini ngoba uma umuntu elambile eswini umqondo awukwazi ukusebenza kodwa uzothola ukuthi into ezazibaluleke njengalezo ukuthi abantu bakwazi ukuyithuthukisa yingakho abelungu namabhunu mangabeka kanjalo nanamhlanje bengafuni nomhlaba ngoba batshela abanye bakithi ukuthi zivaleni lezi bavuma nabo ngoba babelambile ngakho-ke bafanele siqinisekise ukuthi ey'ntweni esizenza kakhulukazi nakuzo ezemfundo lezo zinto lezo kubekeke phambili ngoba kuthina sonke esiyokwazi ukuthi sibe ngosolwazi abanye bethu bafanele siqinisekise ukuthi beseselapha phansi bafundiswe ngezinto ey'thinta amakhono ngenxa yesikhathi wenzwakele ake ngiyibambe kanje kodwa sizazotholana
No, ngiyabonga angisezukulo ukuyi-introduce nokuthi i-background yami iphumani. Ngizabele nje ngihlale straight ekodabeni mfowethu njengoba kade ushilo. Lana izobeka ama-point ukuze ngizwakale ukuthi ngithini la ngiyakhona. Okokuqala lana ningathuki-ke uma ngabe ngithinta lokhu ngoba phela ngenzela kona ukuthi-ke ngingathathi isikhathi seswakho. Lokuqala kumele sazi ukuthi-ke one ukuthi silokhu sidebate sithi sisukaphi siyaphi la siyakhona ngeke uzokusiza. We must first understand the system esiphila ngaphansi kwayo okokuqala lokho. Uma ungayazi i-system ngeke uzowazi ukuthi uzokwenza kanjani kuya phambili. You may debate but ngeke uzuye la uyakhona. Point number two, ukuthi siqale silimaze siwuhlakaze lo mqondo lona owokuthi every man for himself. We must understand ukuthi without unity, angeke sizenze lutho thina njengalabantu. That's point number two. And then point number three, ukuthi-ke asisuke endaweni leyo ukuthi sihlezi sigxeka njalo system because ibuyela point number one la ngithe khona understand before ugxeke because uzogxeka kanti thola ukuthi those things are provided for within that system. Okay. And then point number four, ilona engisebenzisayo la ngikhona engisebenza khona njengamanje ukuthi-ke united we bargain, divided we fall, and leyo nto ngeke izishintshe iyohlezi njalo nje kakhulu. And if sisuka lapho thina as abantu angeke size silibone, ngeke size silibuze futhi. Bese kuthi okwesifaya ukuthi-ke lana njengoba sibona sinama-leaders amaningi esinawo esithola ukuthi asengaphezu kwamakhanda ethu ingoba we are giving them that opportunity ukuthi babe yileyo nto leyo. And as sibasupport siyababona oZuma sinabo ona baningi, we can go further sibabale sisifike lapho nomahashulu, but indaba esithi yithini esibanikeza leyo nto as abantu because sitrust bona too much and then we even forget to thina sobani. We must find ourselves first, and then those leaders will use that opportunity to say, because you are believing too much umina, and then I will use that opportunity even when I'm wrong, you will agree with me. So we must refrain from that because as leaders, because I'm one of them, as leaders, but we will not be. As leaders, nina bantu imajority enisenza sibone sibakhulu mnandi, because even when you have to give us solutions, you're not giving us solutions, you're giving us problems, and we end up taking our own understanding and use them as our solutions for a majority. So if power, ibuyele kubantu labe khona as leaders ukuthi mangabe sihlezi siphethe lento lesiphethe lento siphethe yabantu, if you can ride behind us as leaders, we will make sure if you riding behind us, we will keep on running until we drop what belongs to you, and then you as the people will win that battle. Other than that, if you keep on supporting us, we will keep on using that support on our own benefits.
Okay, can I ask you something, guys? The one who stand up. Are you going to say something totally different from what you have heard? Yes. Really different, nothing. Yes. Okay, don't think I want to say. Let's something totally different. Yes, of course.
First point, I was going to say you need to invest in young people. Young people are the future. We are young, energetic, and we are very vibrant. And then second thing, you need to also invest in content creators. We know what the fourth industrial revolution is everything that can stand online. So if you invest like about creating content, they're gonna create content in about Africa and in South Africa moving forward. And then I was thinking about Israel and South Africa ayaziwa belungu, yaziwa ukhulu bethu nogogo emakhaya. And the leadership it's something you are born with. Like it's pure form like that. Let us give them a chance. They know everything about South Africa.
I'll just table these two solutions. But before I do that,
I'm actually disappointed that we are trying to come up with a solution, I'm going to change, but we fail to come up with even one solution, but we keep on moving, right? Solution number one is the issue of representation. I see we are keep on deferring responsibilities to other people, but we need to take ownership of the problem and try and execute it within ourselves. It starts with even the families, because now we speak of representation. Right now, my brother spoke about the issue of the Constitution. The Constitution is now allowing us to appoint independent candidates into Parliament. But what kind of quality of individuals are we raising even in our own families? Sons and daughters and transfer the same values. You can't blame Umlu, you can't blame him. Speak to your own kids, your own families, your own wife, right? Always let me speak about economics, because we understand that it's also about the issue of economic power. The solution number one on our table is that we need to relook into the issue of the BEE. Because the way now it is being manipulated, it is now ring-fenced, it's now enrichment scheme. I'll give you a practical example that you can also look at. I was just looking at Sanlam, for example, how now it seems to be being controlled and used to capture the politicians that we appoint. In 2004, there was a consortium Ubuntu Water Investments. UMOTEP is the one that's been championing that. But a lot of people were consulted, but how is that benefiting majority of the people without looking into our trade unions and religious communities compare? So we need to start now forming up solutions and adjusting to the entire BA scheme that is being tabled before us.
Sanibonani njani. Igama lami ngusandile owakaDumo. Indlela mengizwe ngawo umbuzo ukuthi yini practical esingayenza solution kwinkinga esinayo njengabantu abamnyama bala kwaZulu Natal sibe particular nje labantu abala kwaZulu Natal. Ngithemba nokuqala asibuke la sikhona manje ukuthi yini bengasiza ukuthi lento senzayo sikhuluma ukuthi ibe nohlonze and futhi bona umhlahla ukuthi siye phambili. Manje mhlawumbe bekungcono mhlawumbe sibe ngama groups la. Just kanti siba ama groups wonke umuntu mhlawumbe siba group of 7 or 10. Kuthi wonke umuntu abeke uvo lakho kule group lokhu beyalo president alabana. Mase kwenzile lokho siyakuthatha sikujothe phansi sonke ukuthi ukuphi sivumelana ngakho ukuphi esingakwenza. And then siqhubeke sibe nomunye umcimbi onjena olandela uqhubeka lokho. Kuze siqhamuke nento ukuthi manje soyenza mase sathi sizoyenza kanjani leyo nto. Thina lento esikhuluma ngayo ayibajective ukuthi uba ufunde uqonke noba asanda wonke umuntu olana adlala iqhaza kuleyo nto leyo. Okokuqala lokho. Okwesibili ukuthi senza kanjani ukuthi sikwazi ukula iziphi zethu esinazo njengoba nikhuluma ngeconstitution nani. Abelungu bane black forum sinanga thina. Fanele sibe neyonto yomthetho ingalo yomthetho ekwazi ukusulela izipho zethu. Umuntu kwamasho kunekiletize obani esazi ukuthi bazoba ukubalula abantu bamasho. Hayi bebefuna amavoti ngoba befuna ukulela abantu bamasho kuphela. Baphila labo bantu. We need those things, we need those institutions. Thina abantu abanye basikhuluma ngezimali sizozilisa lezo zimali. Yabo. Okunye-ke esingakwazi ukwenza ukuthi okubaluleke kakhulu kunakho konke ukudlula konke ukuthi senza kanjani ukuthi sibuyisele ukuthi abantu bakithi babe nesithunzi, dignity. Ithi dignity khona kanjani abantu abamnyama. Amaphoyisa endlela enza ngayo asibuyisele isithunzi sabantu abamiliyoni esinendzeka nayo. So kumele siqale sibuze ukuthi wena mohlala nephoyisa lithi lekufaka i-ticket esi-100 uthi nawo 50 rand. Siyawona nathi lapho. Senza kanjani sibuyise immorality emphakathini. Wonke umuntu la ekhona akwazi ukuthi ayibheke irongi ngesimeme. Ilapho sobalekela khona abantu bangazusidayisela umzabalazo wethu. Okunye ebenza ukusho ukuthi ekugcineni closing ukuthi sidinga ukuthi sibuyise immorality. Singenza kanjani na? Yabona kuthiwa khona ama-artist la amakhulu. Siyabatshela, we-support them, siyababiza, siyabatshela badingela la hayi ukuthi siyacela abantu abancane. They have to come in, kancane singaqedi. Ukuthi sibatshele ukuthi bafethu dala asishontshe izinto ezinhle ezenzekile kudala. Dala kwacula freedom. Yonke into yozoba freedom i-revolution. Asinakho lokhu cula amantombazane laphana abantu banekede abamajikisa amasebe sesilahlekile bafethu. Ngiyabonga.
Ngizocela ningixolele ne. ngicela ukuthi si conclude. Ngicela ningixolele. Ngizoxela. Isikhathi. Bafethu ngingahlala kahle ngoba ubaba uChris ungakuphi. Ngicela nisihlaleni kahle. Ningahlala bafethu. Okay, sicela hlaleni. Ungangena manje uhlale ngaphakathi. Ngoba I think we are concluding this thing now. Ufuna ukukhuluma? Okay. Ungakhuluma, just raise the point.
Okay, thank you very much, Chaka said. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses while there's no sun. It is because the future of a black man is too much to handle. I think the first thing I must do to say that what becomes a solution is that I think first and foremost that facilitator, I disagree with him to say that the first session was worthless. I think before we come to a solution, we must first understand our problems, analyze them, talk about them, and become at a reality with our problems. And that will be the basis of our consciousness towards arriving towards a solution. And I think we are not doing justice by how, I know we are kind of discussion, but we have been policing how we are engaging, and that is not all Chairperson. But my proposal, so that we don't render this into just a talk show, is that we do have history that teaches us of the actions that were taken by the people who came before us and fought within the struggle. The only solution that we have, in fact, there are only 3 solutions that I want to propose, is that the only thing that we must do as black people is organize, organize, and organize. There's nothing that is going to bring a solution besides a revolution in this country. We must organize high school learners in terms of basic education. We must mobilize them. They must go on the streets. We must organize university students. The country is already in a banana republic, in a banana state. Youth unemployment is sitting more than 60% currently. Already this should be calling for young people to occupy the streets. Talking here only won't assist. What we need to do is that let's organize ourselves like how Steve Bigos did. They organize themselves through organization in universities. They organize themselves in communities through organization like the BCP. We must use these platforms to fund such organization. Let's go and engage leaders. Let's engage community leaders. Let's go to protest. Let's confront the government. There's nothing else that we can do. We're pushing the corner of oppressed. And it's been more than 2 decades. Nothing else will become a solution in this country unless we occupy the streets, we make our voices heard, we overthrow the current government in a popular struggle and a popular revolution. Thank you.
I think that this was mouthful. It was very important to give you the opportunity because really sometimes militancy is very important. I'm going to just say a minute. Greeting comrades, it's Mlungisi Ndlovu. No, comrades, thanks. Firstly, let me just thank you for organizing this gathering. Secondly, I think the important point is that one, I don't see an attendance register here. When you're organizing people, you must not leave people behind. Secondly, I'm happy that Prof is here. As you organize in some of this gathering, tomorrow, I know Mazobe Kuluma takes Yako, and Prof is one of the people in this country that has been sidelined on the basis that he talked on the policy shift. We know that we've got a voting power, but we don't use that voting power. So what is very important is that we need to reverse the Codesa way. Comrade Tonana. So what we're saying is that we need to have a consultative forum where we need to talk on specific policy position. Consultative forum where we'll be able to engage. Secondly, you've got people who call themselves that they are business people. We want them to be able to contribute. Lastly, if there were white people who were sitting here, $1 billion would have been raised. Comrades must not sit in money if they want to see change in this country. They must not be afraid to criticize what is happening and protect the black people that are being attacked every day. Thanks.
please.
Before, 1, 2? Okay, thanks. Before I hand it over to Professor Chris Malikan, I think it would be proper for me to introduce him. Although, comrade, we have just give them some snippets about the man who's going to address us as we conclude. You know, this is a very interesting seminar. You know, we don't get addressed in the beginning, but we address them and then they respond to us. But it's not going to be a respondent. We've been in communication with Chris for quite some time. I only met him last week in person. And what you have said here today is what he's going to tell you. Why we invited all of you here today. We are not wasting your time. But something really big is going to happen in South Africa. And let me say, watch the space. He is one of the person when we met last week in Johannesburg. Spontaneously, those who know Roxa Luxemburg, he talks about spontaneity. And sometimes it's a good phenomena in our society. When people said, look, Chris, we need people like you to convene in Johannesburg. And we said to ourselves, okay, let's try. This was only last week. And today is here. We don't have money. And he decided that, look guys, I have to travel and come. He drove, you know, to be here. And so he's here to address us. He's not going to spend more than 20 minutes. He's going to explain what we conceptualized in Johannesburg in an open forum. It was not somewhere secretly. As I'm saying, I only met him last week in person. A number of people were there, Abo Opa, and lots of other guys. I met them there for the first time. I don't know them. And I said to them, look, I'll use Xubera as a Trojan horse for what you want to test in our society. Because you are not yet a formal structure. I can mobilize people and then they can come, you know. And then they said, okay, no, it's fine. And then that's why you are here in Durban. And I've already received a number of other calls from other provinces in the Eastern Cape, to be quite honest, saying, hey, Tolane, please come to the Eastern Cape. And we want to engage on this issue. And I said, okay, if I still have money, we'll come. You know, they said, no, they will have ways of organizing it. And so Chris is here to say, look, we must not despair. We need to give it a try. And that try, we will hand over the baton to you, Babu Duma, and others who will understand the complexity of our society moving forward, but acknowledging the painful marks that are engraved in other people's bodies, for you to have an opportunity to criticize them and to be critical also about the future. And also to give you that opportunity to say, you are a young person, you have a potential, they will create the environment, but henceforth, you must take that responsibility to create an environment for the next generation. That's how life is. It is a relay. Baba naye nabo Babu Makwaza, they were radical at a certain point. They hated what their parents were saying. They wanted freedom now, and they took risk. And I like your risk as well, to say you will stand up and speak freely. That's what we want as society, as black people or as natives, where we don't strangulate certain voices. It has happened to us in the past. But a coleslaw salad of natives is what is very important. And so Ubabu Chris is going to explain to us. And after that, you Baba Ukulume nge register. All of you have my number, surely, because you are living in a technological space. All of you have my number. If you don't have my number, I'll give you my number. And then you'll send me a WhatsApp to say you were part of this gathering in KZN. You'll send the native KZN. And then we know why. We'll keep that number and we'll create a WhatsApp like what we've done in Johannesburg, so that you don't lose your contact. Because if we are going to write in a paper, it's time consuming and a lot. And so if you are interested, you'll take my number and you say native KZN. And then in Johannesburg, it was native GP, and so forth and so forth. And so, Babu Chris, I don't want to take the thunder from you. It's only going to be 10 minutes. Can we just respect him and give him that? You can come forward. He is the outcast in our society. And so I just want you to see him. He is the outcast in our society. You know why he's an outcast in our society? It's a very interesting thing. Those who think that there is no epistemological warfare, meaning the war on knowledge in our country, you are fooling yourself. There is. He's one of the example of a person who came with the most radical ideas that tried to transform, not even try to transform our economy, try to destroy what has been created during colonialism and apartheid, and try to come with a paradigm, or trying to come with an environment that will make all of us to be on the equal footing, that will make all of us enjoy the natural God endowments that he gave to the South Africans. But the system, you can go and read, ridiculed him. Go and see, they were saying is one of the most, his economic thinking are crazy. I don't want to say it. He's like a lunatic person. Don't listen to him, And then he was marshaled out from the Department of Finance. Yeah. And today, here he is. As a testimony to say, if you touch the powers that be, you are going to be arrested, you are going to go hungry, and you are going to go crazy, and you will be ostracized in the society. But if he was continuing with the neoliberal policies, surely you will be beyond being a professor. You'll be serving in the World Bank and the IMF. And so there are black people in our society who say, look, I will commit a class suicide for the sake of my people. He's one of them. He's not different from Ubabu Makwaza. Ubabu Makwaza, as you see him there, let me tell you something, because I get proud, as well as Ubabu Mkize, Dr. Umkize. I get proud when I'm in a room and I'm around these people. These are the people who always say, no matter what, I'll never compromise truth. No matter what, I'll never sell my soul for 10 rand. I'll never sell my soul for my child to go to the Michael house. I'll rather go hungry with my children, so that at the end of the day, when I speak with them during dinner table, they will know that they have a father. Of what you said, they have a father whose moral and ethic upright. And so Ubabu Makwaza, surely you saw him being ridiculed, but he stood for truth during the social development inquiry. He could have been bought easily. He could have been a billionaire or a millionaire, but he decided not to be part of that corruption. And so we as society of black people, look, I can't sell my soul, I can't sell my people, I can't sell the future of our children. And so when you sit with them here, we need to be proud. Hence, I'll give it to Professor Chris. I would say he's one of the people that I admire. He is a professor in economy. One of the few. If you do an audit in South Africa, how many black professors? You will be shocked that there are not even more than 20. Black professors. He is one of them. But the system hated him, rejected him. And so, Prof, time is yours.
Ngibonge babudube ngamagama akho. Kimi mangizwa umuntu ekhuluma kanje ngami ngibe namahloni kodwa ngiyajabula ngoba yikho lo encourageayo ukuthi siqhubeke sikhuluma iqiniso nanoma kunomuntu oyedwa eSouth Africa olibona iqiniso lokho kwenza ukuthi sijabule. Ngixolise ukuthi sifike late besingazi ukuthi kwakhiwa imigwaqo kune traffic kodwa siyajabula ukuthi siye safika ukuthi si participate kule session. Ngizokhuluma ngesingisi ngoba le session lena ibhekwa izwe lonke so that i-message ephuma lana bayizwe bonke nabaphesheya bayizwe ukuthi abantu base South Africa bathini ngezwe labo. I-problem esinayo eSouth Africa iye yabekwa kahle ubaba uSikhakhane umuzi Sikhakhane. He said the main problem in South Africa is that at some point white people oppressed, dispossessed and exploited African people. And that process of oppression, dispossession and exploitation by white people continues to this day unabated. In various ways, if you check the levels of super exploitation of African people, it's very shocking. It has gotten worse. So the more democratic South Africa became, the more the conditions for further exploitation of African people were facilitated. There's one thing, and this can be debated maybe in the next session, that all over the world, why is it that people of African descent or African people, they find themselves at the bottom of the global capitalist system? Why is it that the case? Why is it that under a modern global capitalist system, there's not a single African country or a country that is dominated by people of African descent is categorized as part of the advanced economies? Why is that the case? And I always say that what is unique about African people, I've studied, I checked, but perhaps I am wrong, but African people are the only people in the world who entered the current modern capitalist system as slaves. No other grouping entered the capitalist system ever since its dawn as slaves. Indians did not, the Chinese in the East did not, white people did not, but only African people entered as slaves. So, with the rise of capitalism, we know that ideas changed in Europe. They moved towards being liberals, talking about freedom, fraternity, and liberty. But not for Africans, because under those conditions, African people were slaves. That is what is unique. And the task is now upon us to break that historical relationship between African people and the global capitalist system. We need to debate whether it is possible that we can attain our total liberation within the framework of the capitalist system if we entered this system as slaves. So it's a debate that we need to have, and in a way of crafting a vision. But Ubaba Sikhakhane said, the distance between what we want to achieve, our liberation, total liberation, and our situation today, that distance is determined by our level of disunity. We are not united. And by implication, we are saying that if we can get united, we can shorten this distance between our current condition and where we want to be. Now, African people in South Africa in particular, there's a certain degree of organization. Trade unions, would recall that we had trade unions. For example, at some point I was in COSATU. COSATU had under it more than 2.2 million African, largely African workers. 2.2 million under COSATU Federation. And on the other hand, you had the ANC, which had more than 1 million members. And we know that once people join political organizations, it means that their level of political consciousness is higher. So we have 1 million, at least 1 million people who were ANC members, and we had more other people who were members of other political parties, like the EFF, like the Pan-Africanist Congress, AZAPO, UTM, you mentioned them. So I can safely say more than 2 million African people are politically conscious. They join political organizations. I won't mention those who joined the DA. I'm mentioning those that I consider to be closer to the national liberation tradition. Then we have students. We've got various student organizations. We saw with Fees Must Fall how students were organized, the levels of consciousness. And we've got youth organizations. So there is some level of organization among African people. But what is a problem is that just as when we get organized, we get wrong leaders. Because they take these mass organizations with masses of people and then they mislead them. So over and above the problem of organization, we've got the problem of leadership. We've got a crisis of leadership. And this crisis of leadership, you see it today. You've got two organizations in parliament that are claiming to be coming from the national liberation tradition, the EFF and the ANC. Together, they make up more than 2/3. They can change the constitution. But it's not happening. When you go to the ANC, you will hear talk of revolution, national democratic revolution, liberation of black people in general, Africans in particular. You go to the EFF, same thing. Liberation of black people in general, African people, economic freedom in our lifetime. But here they are, 2/3 majority. They're doing nothing. There's a crisis of leadership. I'm going to take it a step further. The two organizations take resolutions that are similar. Land expropriation without compensation. 2/3 majority, right? It's supposed to be implemented. It's a straightforward issue. What's the problem? It's the problem of leadership. The masses of members of the ANC have resolved. You see, that's the phenomenon. The masses in a mass organization agree that we need land expropriation without compensation. They elect leaders. And then leaders come back to them and ask, do you want the land? You see. And then when you say, yeah, we want the land, they're still consulting. They're still consulting in communities. Do you want the land? Tell us why. To what extent, do you want the land? And then realizing that the masses of the people outside the structures of the ANC and the EFF, just ordinary people, they want the land. They want land expropriation without compensation. Then they start saying, no, it's going to disturb food security. So it must happen under certain conditions. So which means that the struggle was fought on condition that food security is not going to be disturbed. So, Abo King Dingane, Cetshwayo, Chief Bambata, Skukune, Hinta, Bonke. It means they were fighting for this land on condition that there should not be food security that is threatened. But we thought that the bringing back of the land to African people is non-negotiable. It's not conditional. It's a demand that is not conditional. Sizokunikeza umhlaba on condition that angeke usilambise. So if sibona ngazathi yazodisturb amabhunu uma belima angeke uthole umhlaba. Hlala unjalo. So we want the land. No, there's going to be food insecurity. We want free education. There's no money. You see. You want to nationalize the mine. We want the mines. No, you'll scare investors. What did we fight for? What are these organizations for? It's a crisis of leadership. And when that happens, then we should know that some leaders are bought and others are not. The ones that are bought are going to be bolstered, to be supported by the media. They will be presented as messiahs. Elect this one, there won't be a downgrade. Elect this one, you'll see after 2 years, 2-3 years, there will be 3% growth. Elect this one, there will be job creation. All those are lies, they've come to pass. So it's a crisis of leadership. We need to be very blunt and be able to isolate false prophets amongst our leaders from those that are not. We need to be honest. So we have a crisis of leadership over and above the crisis of organization. There's something that is happening. There's one comrade la Ote, we need to remove the CODESA grouping, something like that. They recycle themselves. They recycle themselves. And above. Ulanda umuntu retired ukuthi eze because participated in that process to secure the interest. Besingekho lapho. I mean, I was born. I participated in the first democratic election. I don't recall the extent of consultation njengoba yenza ngomhlaba manje. Ukuthi ba-informe abantu ukuthi what are they negotiating eCODESA? What are they agreeing on eCODESA? There was no widespread consultation. We need to be honest. When the constitution was drafted, but here in 1996, date, I don't recall once. I mean, I've been saying student. I don't recall once being engaged with, hey man, there's a constitution that is being drafted. What do you think should be in that constitution? I don't recall. Maybe it happened. Maybe I was not there, but I don't recall widespread consultation of people around the constitution. So, I conclude that this constitution is not ours. Maybe abanye bayazi, but it's not ours. So when they say swear by the constitution, we swear by something that is not ours. So we've got a huge task to dismantle and to fashion a constitution, a alternative. So, in Johannesburg we met, we were shocked. There were more people, in fact we were allowed to see about 50 in a room, but we ended with 75 and others were turned away because of COVID. But the level of interest was very high. In that meeting, we agreed that African people do not have power. Everywhere we are powerless. Everywhere. Even at workplace, in schools. Comrades here were talking about the language, English. It's a sign of power. We are powerless, even amongst ourselves. Asikhona ukukhuluma kahle, ngikhulume ngesiZulu, ngimixe ngeSotho. Why? Ngilinka nabantu abakhuluma isiXhosa, neSotho, neSivenda, neSishanga nge-English. An English person is creating a link between me and other natives. It's a problem. We don't have power. We don't have economic power. There's not even a single product that African people are producing that white people don't produce. They don't need us. In fact, we are dependent on white people. For food, for clothing, for technology, anything, it's white people. Even companies from abroad, when they say they are investing about iPhone, iPhone, Samsung, all these technologies, they come through white people. Samsung never strikes a deal with an African in South Africa to share the technology and distribute the technology. They go for white people. Even the Russians, as we speak, are trying to learn Afrikaans. Hi, Zulu. Because the Afrikaners are in charge of the economy. That's where the business is. I am a Zulu, I am a Xhosa, I am a Shangan, I am a Venda. So it's important to learn Afrikaans for the Russians, as matters stand, than isiZulu. So we need power. We need power. That's the first thing that we agreed on at JOS. Number two, we said that African people, this is our country. We are not going to be apologetic about it. And in South Africa, as matters stand, we need to realize, as Ubabu Dube was saying, that it's a battlefield. But we pretend like there's no war going on, right? People are hogging on and monopolizing the wealth of our country in our presence as a majority. We are a minority, an economic minority and a numerical majority. Some comrades are talking about a useless majority, right? So we need to change that. But what is it that can unite us? We need to develop a vision that cuts across, regardless of a political party. An overarching vision, African vision for this country. So why is that the case? Because it's our country. The Chinese have their vision. It does not mean that there are no non-Chinese people in China. The Indians have a vision. It does not mean there are no non-Indian people in India. There are people who are not Indians in India. There are people who are not Chinese in China. There are people who are not whites in Britain. But the white people of Britain are determining the agenda of Britain. The black people in Britain, they don't. It's not their country. They were enslaved there. Their position has not changed. Black Lives Matter, right? But they determine the agenda because it's their country. Somehow we are made to feel guilty if we get together and determine the agenda for this country as African people. So this is what is unique about us. We are the indigenous people of this country. We are the majority. But indigenous people in the US are a minority. They were exterminated. We can understand their position, right? They cannot mount a successful fight against the colonial settler white population in the US. About Trump, they are Americans, yeah, but it's not their country. We should not forget that. There are indigenous people there. They've been exterminated, others pushed down to Latin America. So we understand that it will be difficult for them to dismantle white power in America because they are a numerical minority. Same thing with Australia. The Aborigines are a numerical minority. What's the excuse here? The only way we can explain it is the issue of leadership and the need to develop a vision that unites African people across political parties. We should not be divided by petty issues. We should understand our principal challenge, and what divides us should be secondary. What we need to emphasize now is what unites us. And we share that experience of being dispossessed, of being oppressed or dominated, and of being exploited. We earn the lowest salaries across all the scales. No matter how educated you can be, you'll be the lowest earning person in your scale as an African in this country. So we share that experience and we need to resolve it through power. access to power and transforming whatever power relations exist. So we need that vision. So even if I form my own small political party, right? But that party, as a minimum, it must have elements of a vision that must come from this house. Because if my political party, my organization, right, my farmers' organization, my business organization, does not have elements of this vision, it means that it is outside the politics that are in line with the development of African people. We should not be differing over issues of land, issues of empowering African people. Resolutionary Reserve Bank. Both parties agree. The Reserve Bank must be owned by the state. Some leaders say, hey, we can't do it, it's too expensive. Can't we enter the struggle on condition that things are expensive or not? We can't take the land, it's too expensive, it's the same thing. So, if vision will allow us to be a solid unit, by eliminating what divides us, then we'll be a solid mass. We need to be a solid mass. An Afrikaner or a poor person or an English person, la at Durban, no say, Joes, when they meet you, they are one. They deal with you. We need to be a solid mass in order to exert our power. And that can only happen if we set this vision, we have these values that will guide us. The fourth thing that we agreed on is a need for an organization. Konubabo kulumile la watu funeki structure. So it's a task that we need to develop, to form an organization. We need to organize our people, and it cannot be just one structure. Ngoba abantu bakithi baphila ezindaweni ezihlukene. Some are students, some are workers, some are in the township unemployed. So we need to form different types of organization to collect our people under this one roof of a structure. So this one gets a voice. Steve Biko had about 19 organizations. They were leading about 19 organizations. It was not just one. There were 19 organizations. Even Wayona ANC had different organizations, Abokosas, Abosasko, Abokosatu. So we need to organize our people and give them a structure so that they can have proper representation. So from here, ngivumilana noBaba uDuma lapha makathi kufuneka sibe ne program of action. Ubani uzokwenza ini ukuze le structure sibe alive nama tasks. That's what we agreed on. So as a result, egoli then an interim structure was formed to try and organize another session, longer session. Ngivumelana no khona ubaba lo kufuneka another session, right, where we are going to flesh out these things, because the views that are coming from KZN and the views that will be coming from Gauteng, the views that will be coming from the Eastern Cape will have to be combined so that we've got a national view, and then we have a national structure. So those are the tasks that are ahead of us. Ngiyathemba ukuthi angizange nginibhore. Yeah, ngiyabonga.
Can I do this, ne? Because we want to be open. Surely now you know what's next. It's a very simple thing. In Gauteng there is a structure that was organized. And one fellow of mine that I've admired most, he said to me, look, Xolani, when you try to build something, eliminate volunteers. Because it means that those people really, they have nothing to do, you know. They just want something, and then they simply lose interest. That's what he said. He said, eliminate volunteers. You know, those people who simply raise hands and say, no, I'm a volunteer, I would like to be part of this, you know. That's what he said. And two, he said, approach people that you think that they might add quality to this whole thing. And they must be committed. It's not the issue of status. We are not forming a political organization, but it's a movement. Lots of sacrifice. You are sitting here, you know, it's so much sacrifice to people who made these things to happen. And we need those kind of people because we don't want to fail. That's the most important thing. We don't want to fail as natives, and two, we don't want to keep on encouraging you to do something. And so we don't want volunteers. That's the most important thing. Before I go to the most crucial thing, I would like, if there is anyone here who have a question, to pose that question or to ask those questions so that whatever we do moving forward, you know what you are trying to achieve. Surely, Bob Chris, you have explained to them what you are trying to achieve in a very concise manner. And so, is there anyone here who would like to have a question? Because we are trying to form a native movement that is not politically aligned, that is not aligned to any, what you call trade union, religion, sex and gender, but something that will try to see on an intellectual level, also on the practical level, because those two things you can't divorce, practical and intellectual level. Who's got maybe any idea of, or would like to have clarity? I'll give you that opportunity. Babu Chris is here, I am here, and then we'll answer you. And then can I have those hands? Can I have from people who have not asked anything or who have not said a word? Yes, I'll give you the opportunity. Is there anyone? Okay, I'll take only 6, and if there is no any other person, it means that those are the only 3 people. 4 or 5.
Chris, can you jot down the, yes, and don't forget to send me an email, a WhatsApp, native KZ, and then send me your name as well, if you don't mind.
No, thanks, my leader, thanks. To be very short and straight to the point, the clarity-seeking question is to say, I can hear a facilitator and the previous speaker who have just spoken that in Johannesburg and Gauteng, there was a structure that was nominated or appointed. So to say that this is the same exercise that we need to do here in KZN. So therefore, my clarity-seeking question was that I'm not against that. In fact, I'm for that, because I believe that when you organize, there must be responsible people for particular tasks to do. Is that when we put the structure, how many people are in this structure? What is the guideline or terms of reference or whatever in terms of appointing this particular structure? What is it that will guide us? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. What I wanted to address here or to come up with is that what we talk about, I didn't hear even one solution that we came up with. And we all understand our problems, that our main problems is the economic independence. So what I wanted to get also from the professor is that what can we do that to get us on the equal footing? Because what I think is that we don't have our own industries that we have, and we also need to build our own industries that will also put us on the equal footing. And we have those industries, like, for example, but what we must do is that how can we build and monetize those industries?
Sanbolane, I have a question. If this is going to be a think tank group organization, how can we self-finance ourselves? Because if private companies finance us, can influence us. So what program do we have in mind to self-finance ourselves as a group to be independent?
Umbuzo enginawo nje ukuthi uma ngabe ngilele uprof ekhuluma ngibuka sengathi ukuthi our aim is to change the grand neuron of the country, which abantu abaningi sebeventile their views in terms of which how does it oppress abantu abamnyama. My question is it possible really to change those grand neurons which were introduced in the aggression? Is it possible to change them or negotiate? Or do we really mean business in terms of a revolution which will make impact? Are we prepared to die? And are we prepared to kill for us not to be killed? That's the question.
Unganiso wakahlela emtubatuba. Umbuzo wami ukuthi njengoba kuthiwa ukuthi eqaleni ukuthi sizokhuluma ngama-practical solutions that are implementable. Angayizwa ke i-implementekana namhlanje. Mhlambe bese kukhona yini okupractical esingathi masihlangana ngoJanuary 31 next year sithi sesenze ukuthi sesihambe safika la ngalendlela. Bese ngiphinde ngiba nesicelo sokuthi ngesikhathi ukwenza i-interest structure ngibona abantu besifazane abaningi bephuma imbokodo ke ewumgogodla, futhi ke ngibona abaningi bephuma ukuthi engathi mayenziwa bese befakwa kakhulu, hayi ngoba befakwa kodwa ngoba vele bayimgogodla kwalomhlaba siphila yabo.
Okay, you are the last person then.
And it is a naive question.
But mind while we're going to ask a naive question.
I just want to ask it for its own clarity and maybe
we are talking about the structure.
Yes, the structure as well. The question is, how are you going to convince people who are proud South African and identify with the Constitution? Because you say the Constitution isn't the document of so-called Africans. Because, for instance, Norma Russia here, the trade unionist, stipulates progress that is coming from labor legislation since 1979. For instance, Section 22 of the Constitution speaks about the right to fair labor practices. And these trade unions will tell you there's no other grouping in South Africa that has benefited from that section alone in the Constitution, because Africans are not even classified as employees prior 1979. So how are you going to convince South Africans to largely identify themselves with the Constitution, like the rights of LGBTQI communities that are protected? How are you going to convince that section of community to identify with this project you are trying to do here?
That's a very good question. Prof, we have two questions. It's from the gentleman here, as well as from Ubuti. They will ask about, are we prepared to die? Those are the two, I think, important questions for it to work.
No, thanks. But I think in terms of the structure, I'm a Bobo from Clermont. I think in terms of the structure, I think questions, as far as the presentation took place, questions are necessary to clarify the nature, the composition, the selection, whatever, as far as the structure is concerned. But in terms of the politics, the economics, the legal technicalities of other things, it's unfair for us to pose questions to Prof. Marikane, to Tola. Because it's us here who are dealing with the politics and the economics and whatever issues that we want to deal with. So I thought it could have been much more fairer if we explain to say questions as far as the structure is concerned. But if I want to pose questions around the politics and the economics, it simply means the entire process we started with, which we are directing, is going to be counterproductive. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So as far as the structure is concerned, okay, these are the challenges that we are facing as Africans, who are powerless and all those things that we spoke about. Now we want the structure. Questions emanating from the presentation about the structure are important. And then the next session, which I think all of us unanimously agree with, that we need to have a session of this nature. Because I'm avoiding a situation where we talk about the structure and also we enter into a realm of political economy. You get a point? So we must have a single-minded sense of purpose. The purpose is about the structure. Do we need the structure? Yes, we need the structure. That question is answered as a result of our conditions. How is the structure going to be composed? That's what we need to deal with. Then the rest of other things, because it will even be counterproductive for Prof to come and provide and present himself or you, Klolani, as a messiah, as a provider of all solutions. Solutions are here, we discussed here. The politics and the economics. So Prof, Klolani, don't be tempted to enter into the politics and economics. It's what we discussed here. Let's stick so that we close it off properly in terms of the structure and how we take it forward. And the issue raised by Budwamela and by agenda, because we normally take it for granted.
Yes. I think there is no more debate. Let's do a very simple thing.
Is there anyone? I'm not looking for a volunteer. I'm looking for someone who's passionate, who would like to be part of this. And we don't want a lot of people. Only, let me say, only 5. As we do the closing, there are people that who owe me some money. They must stay behind because they promised that they will make a contribution. They must not leave. They know themselves. Can we have, I've communicated with them, can we have 5 people from this house who are interested to be part of this? And may they stay behind. And we are not going to be full of nonsense and jokes and so forth. I have to be honest, because we are building something. We are not comedians. We are very serious. We don't want us to, when we go to Johannesburg or to other provinces, and then we go with comedians. Seriously. We want people who are serious, who are going to be committed, who are going to put their resources so that Steve Bigo can be answered, because we don't have sponsor. And so you'll spend your petrol, you'll spend your petrol, you spend your airtime, you spend your time as well. And so can we have 5 people who are prepared to put their money and their time to this project? We don't want volunteers. People who put their money, their time, their expertise, and who are willing to be called at any time. And so those people who like to do that, can they stand up? We don't want a person when we say we're going to Johannesburg, he say, hey, I don't have money, can you assist me, guys? Because we don't want to negotiate those things. I'm being honest, we don't have money, all of us, but it's very painful when we are supposed to go somewhere else and then that person becomes your problem. And then it defeats the whole purpose. I'm not sure if you understand me. I'm not trying to be, but I have to be honest. We don't want a person when he say we are going to Johannesburg on this particular day, and then he say, can I have a lift? And then if we say, I'm flying, and then he say, hey, if you don't have resources, sit down. If you have resources, stand up. That's what is very important. As I'm saying, we are not joking, you know. We don't want people who say, hey, comrade, I don't have money. Hey, I'm waiting for a lift. Hey, I don't have airtime. I can't make a call. If you have challenges, don't volunteer. That's my advice. But if you don't, stand up. And so those are the 4 people that we have. We rather have 4 than 5. Trust me. And so I would like that 4 to stay behind. It's 5 with. I saw 4 people. I saw 4 people. And so we are comfortable. Ne? And so you were given an opportunity. Don't say you were not given an opportunity. It was kind of a club. You know, it's an open thing. I've said it. And all of us, we are comfortable with what I've done. Ne? Can I have an approval from you guys? Are we comfortable the way we've conducted this? And so it's not a club of certain people who've got money, but you have are people who have volunteered to use their resources, because there is nothing to benefit at the end of the day. And so before I make a closing, let me thank those people who stood up. And I can assure you, we will have a WhatsApp group. Please send me native KZN, so that you will be part of this communication moving forward. All of us were saying we were committed, we are nothing, we want to build this country, we have to take whatever. Just a simple thing. Send your number to me and say native KZN. That's all that is needed from you from now. And then if you have done that, it means that you were honest when you say you want to reclaim what was taken from you. Babu Chris, let me thank you a lot. Babu Amulapo PSA, let me also thank you a lot. I don't know what is this now. There is a man who just arrived here. He is Lassie. Okay, can you? Is Lassie Chiwal? He is our former ambassador in China. And he is aware about this. He's the part of the group in Johannesburg. He missed the flight and he took the last flight so that to show a serious commitment to what we are trying to achieve. That's why he's here, all the way from Johannesburg. And thanks for your commitment. We were so many, you'll see the photos. And I think it will be very naive of me. The guys will, just to honor you, because you made a huge sacrifice. Guys, with your permission, I know we have already closed. I'll give Lassie Chiwal only 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes on the question of the on the native question. Only can we do this? Can we listen to him only for 5 minutes? And okay, I'll allow these two guys to leave, please. Oh, okay, no thanks. We are not leaving. I know your woman just called you, and so please, can we not leave? Let's see, not more than 5 minutes, Putwam. You can come. You know, I'm trying to, and him also is one of the victims. Let me give you, just narrate something. He's one of the victims. He's not different from Makwaza and no Chris. You know, that's why I'm saying I'm very proud when I'm having this gentleman here. A short story, you are a journalist. Ulasi is one person who survived to be killed in Mbombela. Okay, let me not start from there. He's the first MEC for economic development in Mpumalanga. He's an honest person who don't take nonsense. And when Thabo Mbeki was not aligned with him, he made it clear that I don't understand how you operate. It was before the JZ things. And then he was disposed as an MEC for economic development. And then because of his expertise, they brought him back to stabilize Mbombela. And then it was during the World Cup. And then they said to him, look, you will be responsible for the 2010 World Cup, infrastructure and so forth. He became the mayor, executive mayor, was having all the powers to steal and squander money and so forth. He fought with the big people in our country. It's there on the newspapers, Yomdaunges. If you remember, people died in Mbombela. They were killed because those guys wanted that stadium. And he stood, he put his life to say, I'm not going to move, everything needs to be above board. They killed his closest friend, who's from SACP, was killed. Yes, he was killed, and the next target was supposed to be him. But through the grace of his ancestors and God and the nature, he was protected. But he never bent his spine. And after that, because he was honest, Ubabu Jacob Zuma sent him to China to go and become the ambassador. And even there he was honest. I'll go to the most painful thing. You know what newspapers said about him when he was brought back from China. He was living a very hard life, you know, a very painful, hard life, you know. Just like Chris, he was seen as a lunatic, someone who's crazy, who can't think, a serious lunatic, a really lunatic person. But he stood his ground. He said, I will never betray my people. I'll always be on the side of my people. And here he is today. He was supposed to die first, and he was supposed to be in a psychiatric hospital. But never. He's here today, he's with us. I don't want you to go there. I want you to restrict yourself. Only 5 minutes, Putlas. And so he's one of the honest person, trust me. And he's part of the native movement in Johannesburg. And so that's why he's here. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I must say that this is the first ever experience that I've ever encountered where your obituary is actually read when you're still alive. I will try to be as brief as is possible, and unfortunately, most of you might not be aware that you know, the life that we've lived before politics, or should I say, the struggle assumed a different form and content that is referred to as politics, which is a very serious problem, because for those of us that have participated in the life of this country and inspired to participate in any activities that are aimed at freeing our people, we never for a moment thought that there would ever be any instance where that activity becomes a paid job. Maybe I should start from there, because the different windows through which we entered were inspired by nothing. I'm saying nothing, and I want to repeat, nothing else but what I would call the obligation of serving the interests of our people. Those of you that may not be aware, actually, would not even believe that the inspiration was really more around a sense of what you can call self-realization that something does not add up with the environment in which we are, something that does not add up, that makes the human sense reach a state of contentment, settle, in other words, that all that which obtains, all that which is given, and all that which unfolds in life has not happened because there's what is called nature or divinity. I just want to really start that. And it is something that inherently comes with life. All of those that have really tried to understand, unpack, dissect this phenomenon called life, I think did so much that if you really look at what you can call the evolution of human society, their attempts at all times were driven by what I would call a self-inherent energy that is inspired by what I can call realization that we are alive, and being aware that we are alive, even a small offspring that is born. I actually shock people when I say some of the animals that can shock you, that within a split of a second, without any education, but instinctively and intuitively, pick up the obligation of survival that is based on the fact that unless you find a way of realizing that you are on your own, especially after being propped up of what I can call the shell body in the case of chickens and mammals. Once you are propped out of that life where you are dependent on the mother body that fed you, in the case of chickens, it happens through what I can call an infrared experience, where that warmth of the mother body passes on all nutrients that are consumed by this small little thing inside. Because if you know an egg, it has a brittle cover, which is really as thin as what you can call the womb of a human being inside there. And I'm sorry, I can really go out, but all I'm saying that if this is something that is inherent in life, that something that is born already knows that it is on its own and it will not be able to survive unless it finds a way of responding to an outer existential reality of an environment that obliges it to be aware of what it has to do. Even that little child doesn't need even education or whisper. A chick within a split of a second already knows the sounds that points it to danger and points it to an opportunity. When danger comes, even if it has not been experienced, it has not been exposed to anything that is called a hawk or a snake or anything that just might prey on it, at that moment that the mother hen makes noise, it responds, and it responds positively by going to a world it doesn't even know, where it feels safe and secure when it goes beneath the wings of its mother body. A different sound will point it to an opportunity of knowing that it is time for you to eat. And I sat in China when I was talking to about 2,000 learners with about, I think, 20 professors at my farewell. There, that it shocks me, and it's something I don't understand, that when you find a little chick that just comes out of that shell body, and by the way, when it comes out of the shell body, it is not because it is the hen that has exerted pressure. It is the life that has evolved on its own that come to a realization that it is time for it to prop out of the shell body, and it is only when the egg cracks that the mother body knows that that life has come to be born, and it helps it by just removing the crack so that it doesn't hurt it, because the soft nature of the life of that little thing is of a nature that it can actually even be killed by the shell if the mother hen does not. Is it not mystery of life? But I'm raising it because we are made to believe as Africans that the only way that we can be able to react, respond, and actually have a hypothetical way of responding to the dictates of the existential external environment that are based on the demand that is placed on us internally, that makes you realize that for you to survive, you have to actually engage in the external environment for you to be fed. They think that we must realize that the only way we could realize that we had that obligation is when the white man came to Africa. I don't know if it makes sense. Because in their own narrative, and one of our greatest speakers, Ubabu Mwendane, told us of a conference that took place in 1854 where for 14 days all manner of the best brains were brought under one roof to just want to understand the human mind, and not just that, but the psyche of the African, because suddenly these people have claimed to have discovered what they called Africa, which is one country, because indeed, I was saying to someone in the plane that, you know, had Shaka not been stopped in his moves to unify Africa, Shaka would be as great country as China. And you know what Africa would have been? It would have been a continent of a lion, a brave animal, a great strategist, a hunter, an animal that achieves out of patience, but an animal that also has an amazing sense of spirit that is so humble that even if it knows its power, it will never, even if there are about 10, 15 that they are taking a prey, it will never behave like a hyena that eats a prey whilst running. It's so humble. It will bring that animal down, lay it down, and ensure that it actually departs from, you know, existential reality, if you call it, in a humble and dignified way, by going forward for its pipe that releases the air so that it doesn't feel not even a single pain. The pain it will feel is when it's under attack, when it is brought down. But I can assure you, lions are very conscious of their power and capacity. When they see a giant elephant, even the smallest that is still taking a chance, that is being taken through lessons, sees an elephant as a meal. That's how confident it is, but that's how Shaka was. Closing it on that note, and that's what I said, that, you know, I'm petty by birth, but I admire and marvel when I think of the Zulus. Their tradition, their psyche, and this power of, you know, confidence in themselves, that even when they can come here, one of them with iwis as petty pamutenga shale sija we bulal. Ashali bulal and fatlas kopo bazo no petty pamike futi. And kunale, of course, nale element ignorant good manga hamba nje took 13 people na yonke into cabanga ukuthi isibhamza phuma amanzi. But never ever take it away from that bravery, that courage ukuthi ngayishaya mina lezi nokilahle phansi. Ngoba thina singabantu abamazulu abazi ukuthi impilo iphuma emazulwini, lapho kuphuma khona impilo ke yenza ukuthi yona yenza ukuthi wazi ukuthi yini okufanele uyidle, uzoyidla nini, iza njani, ngayiphi weather, ugqoka ini, ufama. I always say, you know, there's something very interesting about the Zulu language, the Zulu culture, their sense of origin, their sound, because language is sound, by the way. Language is sound, it's command. But all of that which our earlier beings conceived, that begin to be what we use now for us to hear each other. For you to think that they could actually even say no, but something exists, not necessarily because it derives from a geological life, archaeological life, and all of those aspects that have to do with what you can call a physical expression of life, but it has something to do with osmosis, and you know, ecology, to a point that they would say the reason for you to understand the composition, constitution, and how things work at that point is what will enable you to be able to react, respond, but also engage in a process of production that can satisfy human needs. Tells you that if we have to deal with the native question, never ever take the narrative that makes you believe that there was no existential animal on the African continent. Because when those people wanted to know why Africans are there in Africa, it is because there are things you can't separate in life. And I'm done, Comrade Claude. You can't separate an ant and soil. It's like the egg and chicken debate. You can't separate dung and a beetle. It's the same. You can ask yourself what comes first before the other. It's a mystery question you will not be able to resolve. But at any point that you have an ant, you have as an existential reality, an existential reality, end that exists, that is nothing but a reflection of their geological life, nature, and character. When Chinese go anywhere in the world, the first thing they take, they take the soil, they take that ant, they go to a laboratory, they analyze, they will tell you the psyche, the behavior, they respond, the reaction. They can actually even put that animal in a fight with another from a different area. They will tell you how an African will behave in any particular geographic area that is linked with the osmosis, the ecology, the cosmology. So that is why when you talk about national interest, what are national interests? It is right to space. Because it is in space that anything exists, but it is also space that is linked to, of course, what you can call geography. In our case, geography and the space around it, the right to us, the right to defend as Africans when we talk about national interest, is that sovereignty, which is the power, the jurisdiction that we have over what it is that we are part of, but that which has also given birth to us. Because when you say dust to dust, it's a reflection of the fact that there's an understanding that anything that exists in a material sense has no other origin except it's being tied to what it has born from. And in that case, dust, powder, ash disappears into space through what you can call evaporation, which tells you that anything that exists in a physical sense that ends up being dissected to its minutest form. With those of you that have done quantum physics, physical science would know that there's 182 elements. You know, that makes anything and everything that will happen, that will change the behavior of the geological life, that makes you get gold, that can make you get platinum. But that happens only in terms of the behavior of the air quality, circulation that penetrate the soil, and at all times that the soil is penetrated is through what you can call water. Don't you people say water is life? But it's not life. Life is air, actually. But the long and short of it is that national interest about the airspace, it's about the geological life and all that which comes within that geological life, from right on the surface of the earth, the surface of the sea, and all that which is found in it. And unless you define national interest that you bring as part of the national question, which also includes national economy, it's a boundary within which nature has created all that which strikes a balance that can enable all that exists for it to live in an equitable way that is actually created in nature's own way for there to be a balance. That's why even a human being is made to be alive, and anything that exists, including animals, by a side that has a heart, that distributes life equally to a side that doesn't have a heart and that doesn't discriminate, against it. And that actually brings that balance. That's why you cannot have less trees than elephants. You cannot have less impalas than, predators. And I think when Marx and many others try to look at ways in which the best that we find that can be produced should be equitably distributed, it was based on that element of caring, sharing, equity, and all of those things. So I'm just saying national question is economy. National question is also the narrative that we build that becomes our story, that package our story that tells it different from what Europeans would want to put it across, which suggests that their definition of superiority must be a basis on which we understand what is called success and achievement, and we must all compete like politicians, and actually, unfortunately, those in business, to be like the superior masters. And therefore, that becomes the standard that is defined on what is called success. And what happens? The final experience of only one or two or three, maybe Patrice, maybe Cyril, as then becomes the good house niggers that will be looked at as all of us, what we must actually strive to become. Sorry.
I think, Putwam, let me do this. We are done. I have to release you. Can those people, the four, and those who owe some money who make a contribution, stay behind? There are those that I've negotiated with them. Can they stay behind? And then the four guys and the lady that volunteered, can they stay behind? Because I need money from those, the one that I negotiated with. My number is 082 352 4277. Native -KZN. Can you do that for me? Yeah. And sorry, and also, can you, those who are on Twitter, can they do this? I mean, yes, can you, this was on YouTube, Insight Factor, can they join that on Twitter? And also Xubera, can they join it on Twitter? And lastly, Insight Factor is one of the most important media nowadays, but they are on YouTube. Can you join them there as well? Thanks. Yeah, manje. No, but uzoma ngaphandle. Yeah, ngayo nase reception.